Item number 14 is discussion of the proposed 1 cent infrastructure sales tax referendum ballot language. I believe everybody's had an opportunity to review this. It's pretty straightforward here in your backup. This is just the ballot language that it would appear on, I believe, the August 27th date. And we just need to have this approved for Roy. Do we have any commissioners? Roy,
we will have to also bring back to the board an ordinance that actually establishes the 1 cent 1% sales tax and requires the referendum. We have to advertise that proposed ordinance is going to take place. So we'll do that within the next meeting or two, depending on how we can get it in the newspaper.
Thank you, Roy. Scott, good morning.
Scott Kemp, 5525 Hummingbird Court, Gulf Breeze, Florida, 32563. Good. Thank you again. I just wanted to go on record saying I support this. We're taking lots of hits, all of us, about new construction, development, progress, the traffic, and the only way to fix it is with new revenue. And we really don't want to see our ad valorem taxes increased. And the sales tax is, I believe, the fairest way to go about meeting our needs. I remember Vice Chairman Salter had brought up many years ago of adding different revenue streams. Being on the loss committee for the last couple of years, it's been a great opportunity, and I think it's, I'd asked Dan and last week to go and update the county website with all the great things that have been done with that money. It is just exceptional, the number of roads, the number of miles that have been paved. So it is a win. It shares cost with our tourists, with us who live locally. It might hurt a little bit if you're going to buy a big item that, say you're going to buy a new car or home, that extra penny. Sure, that might, but by and for on our day-to-day lives, I think this is just a win. So I just wanted to go on record and thank you all for your leadership and driving this forward.
Thank you, Scott. And just for anybody here today, so you'll know, I believe that ordinance actually caps that being applied even on large purchases. It gets capped to the first $5,000. So the good news is even if you can afford one of those $70,000 diesel dualies like I would love to have, it'll get capped at that first $5,000. So any other questions or concerns, Commissioner Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I approved my point the other day at the leadership class. I promised if there's 2 or more people together, besides praying, I'm also going to be talking about a sales tax. I appreciate Commissioner Salter, what he's put on the agenda for today. I think we'll follow up with that right now. And I really appreciate the comparison that Dan's done, and want to get it out to the public too. I mean, we've got to hammer this thing home. It just, I'm hoping that people will realize that with what we've done and what we can do, this is a good course for Santa Rosa County in the future. And we really, we're all going to have to be those advocates or ambassadors for that, and then get other people on board. Just like when you're out there trying to earn their vote. And ask them, talk to their friends and talk to their neighbors and talk to their family, and let's get this thing moving. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add, I'll plug the Local Option Sales Tax Citizen Committee. Mr. Kemp's a member of that committee, as he mentioned, meets tomorrow morning. That agenda is published on our website, and what we're doing tomorrow is sort of reviewing every expenditure, all of the projects. We put a summary together for that committee to review that's available to the public as well on our website.
Thank you, Dan. Commissioner Salter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott, thank you for what you said. I totally agree with you. Just for the record, I have worked for 18 years trying to convince the citizens of Santa Rosa County that we needed to diversify our revenue and not be so dependent on property taxes. And we've been able to do that slowly but surely. We need to keep moving forward with it. But we got to continue to diversify the revenue, take the pressure off the property taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Salter. Thank you, Scott. Commissioner Cole, everyone spoke on this. We will move this to Thursday's consent agenda. And item number 15 is a workshop discussion. And I want to state as we lead into this, and I'll defer over to Commissioner Salter. I don't believe that I think we're starting to put it out, and but I do know that the board has now, I believe, we started some public advertisement scheduled to do a budget and infrastructure workshop. The first one will be on April the 15th from 6 to 8 p.m. Again, this is highly encouraged for the public to come to. That will be at the Woodbine Church, which was formerly the Woodbine Baptist Church. That's there, right there near the lines for where mine and Commissioner Salter's district meets. And then there is one on April the 23rd at Tiger Point Community Center from 6 to 8 p.m. And that will be hosted by, I believe, Commissioner Peach and Lynchard there. And I will defer over to Commissioner Salter for further discussion on that. I just wanted to get those dates and times out for the public.
Mr. Chairman, here again, over the last several months, there have been several articles written in newspapers about what this board is not doing on water quality, keeping up with infrastructure. And it offends me because I know for a fact this board and boards past, we work diligently to improve our water quality. The sewer plant down in Navarre, I think Roger had a great article the other day that he sent out in an email explaining exactly where we are with that and how much it's going to cost to get us forward. But in the past, we've had a workshop where we talk about where we've been, where we are, where we're going. And here again, I just want to remind everyone that the boards in the past, we dealt with Hurricane Ivan, Hurricane Dennis. We rebuilt this county after Ivan. We have not raised the property tax. Since I've been in office, we've actually reduced it twice. We worked on water quality. Commissioner Lynchard has done a diligent job of working to improve water quality with the restore dollars. And I would ask him in that workshop to give us an update on where we are with that. We've wrestled with the courthouse. We finally resolved that. We asked the people for a 1 cent sales tax on the courthouse. They kept rejecting us. So we now have obligated the county for $45 million over the next 15 years. That's going to put about $4.5 million annual payment for that courthouse. We went through the 2007 recession, and people who weren't here didn't understand the impact that had on the county. We were losing about $3.2 to $3.4 million a year during that recession. Commissioner Lynchard has often talked about it. It got to the point where the county was losing $13 million a year. We laid off approximately 104 employees, but we kept the county moving forward. We balanced the budget. At some point in time, I'm going to ask that the county attorney make sure that everyone understands the Burt-Harris Act. When people say, "Oh, those commissioners said their hands are tied," well, our hands are tied because of the Burt-Harris Act. If someone owns property and is zoned correctly and they meet the county ordinances, they have the right to develop that property. And the Burt-Harris Act says they have the right to do that. I like the comparison that Commissioner Cole talked about a few minutes ago that Dan did, comparing the impact fees with the local option sales tax. If you go back and look at the recession when we were losing $3.2 to $3.4 million a year, building permits went from approximately $1,500 to $1,600 a year down to about $300 a year. That impact fee would have been drastically reduced, whereas if we'd had the local option sales tax, we would have been able to move forward with more infrastructure in this county. Those are the things I want to talk about in a workshop. Ever how we can figure out to do that, but I'm just tired of hearing about what we haven't done. I want to hear about what we have done and where we've been, where we are, and where we need to go. And those are the issues I want to talk about.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner Cole.
Thank you. Very well put, Commissioner Salter. The other things too, we've grown tourism. that's bringing dollars in. So one of the things in that workshop I think we really need to hit home on is how much do the visitors, how much do the passer-throughs add to the bottom line of the infrastructure in Santa Rosa County. The estimates are 30, maybe 35%. So that's people that aren't bringing a more burden to the county. They're here for a week enjoying what we get to enjoy on a daily basis. Or perhaps they're just traveling through and they stop and buy a tank of gas and a Coca-Cola and a candy bar. But all that adds to the improvements that we, as the people that are fortunate enough to live here daily, get to benefit from. So I'd like to get a more, like a number on that in that workshop so we can put that out there.
Thank you, Commissioner Gold. Commissioner Lyncher?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Don, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think it is a good exercise for all of us to look back on where we've been and what we've accomplished, because we get focused in on, we tend to look forward. You know, we're not focused on what we did last year. We're focused on what we're going to do next year. We can't take the time on a regular basis to look back and say, okay, we accomplished this, and this. But it is vitally important for us as a board to look back and see what we've done. Talking about the taxes, I think this year, 2019, we will finally be where we were in terms of ad valorem tax collection in 2007. Our taxes went down from a high of $58.5 million in 2007 to a low of around $42 million. That's per year, $16 million less per year. So that adds up over time. And now we've slowly gone back up to the point where we're around $58, $59 million. So 10 years, 11 years later, 12 years later, we're finally back to collecting in ad valorem taxes what we collected in 2007. We did all that without a raise in the millage rate. We did that hamstrung by the Save Our Homes Amendment. People talk about impact fees. The impact fees are largely, if not entirely, offset by the Save Our Homes Amendment. New residents do pay more taxes than existing residents, because new residents don't have the benefit of that Save Our Homes exemption that's built into their property taxes. So you'll have a 20-year-old home across the street from a new home, and the new home is paying 5 times, 6 times, 7 times or more in property taxes versus that old home. So how can the resident that's been there for a long time saying they're not paying their fair share? They're paying a tremendous amount of property taxes. So that is what we're dealing with. That's our ecosystem of taxes, and people don't know that, and we need to get that message out. So I completely agree with Commissioner Salter. I think this would be a good exercise.
I will say, before we hear from Mr. Skimp, go ahead, Scott. Good morning.
I apologize, Scott Kemp, 5525 Hummingbird Court, Golfries. And again, I apologize to come back up, but I did want to go, and being a member, and I hate to say, on the zoning board, you probably all heard about the 6.5 hour meeting we had, 2 weeks ago, Thursday night. I mean, Mr. Andrews sat there through it and had to answer more questions about the, act that you were talking about home rule. I mean, it sounded at points like we were, people were getting ready to create some kind of militia. And, we had people actually saying, the Woodbine Estates new subdivision that we're talking about, if they would, redo the impact fees, it would be millions of dollars for that one, particular development. And that's what these people, and I understand, it's hard to understand. But there is such a misconception out there of what the impact fees would bring compared to reality. And again, Commissioner Lynchard stated, the new people are paying a lot more. I've got 2 kids that are looking just to try to buy land, because buying a house right now is just about impossible As somebody said a couple months ago at the zoning board meeting, when did $200,000 become affordable housing? Because that's where we're at. And so when, as a zoning board member, when we have a developer builder come up and want to go and build homes that are affordable, for my kids and the military folks and people that don't make $100,000 a year, that's what we have to have. But again, it's not, about, and we like to say 3 hours, we talked about traffic, we talked about schools, we talked about all these things that we have no, bearing on. And they actually, and one of the reasons I came today is because one of our members, community members that's usually here, she said, well, if you tell the commissioners that we want impact fees, we'll listen to you. I said, no, they've already stated how they feel about that. And I said, the count, I believe, is 3 or greater, and I said, so you might as well, come to a different point. If you want to address something, go, come at it a different way, because it's, I believe you've made it quite clear that impact fees are not coming back on the table anytime soon. So, again, we are hearing it. I was told to come to you, or, asked to come to you, and I told them that I would, but again, and it's not, hey, if impact fees would raise $3 million a year, I'm not against it, but again, I follow your lead. I elected you all as our leaders, and the bigger picture than I do. So again, thank you, and I do appreciate you allowing me to serve.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you for your service to the community. Again, I just hope that encourage citizens of the public to be able to attend one of these 2 workshops. They're both not only open to the public, but we highly encourage the public to come, because one thing in discussions I had with Dan, and I'll keep it extremely brief, after that meeting there that Scott referenced that went on for a long time and some of the things were said, one of the things me and Dan discussed was realizing that there is a void of knowledge base there for a lot of folks that maybe don't understand the extent of different complex budget issues we deal with. And I don't think that's a negative thing. Folks are very busy with their lives. They're working, they're putting food on the table. I'm fully aware that a lot of folks are spending 2 and 3 nights a week at the ball fields, like me and my wife are. And so it's hard for folks to be able to do a lot of this research. And so this is a chance that this board and our staff want to have, to where we come to the public, to those, to the community outside of this boardroom, in a setting to where, and these will be evening time meetings. And again, I think you'll see that this is wholeheartedly directed to try to be accessible and provide this information and answer those questions about these issues. And I just want to say before we move on that I appreciate, and I've said before, I highly respect the men of this board that have been here for many years prior to that, because I realize now more than ever, many times you're faced with decisions where there are no perfect answers. I'm glad that I wasn't here through the recession and had to take place in over 100 employees having to go home and tell their families they didn't have a paycheck anymore. And, now I'm able to go out there to one of the premier ball fields in this region. From what I've seen, my little boys get to play baseball because of things like that y'all did in improving this county. So thank you so much to my fellow commissioners and staff. And again, I look forward to the public coming out to these workshops. With that, we will, there's no action item needed on that.